I don't see one way of handling money in the New Testament, in Jesus' teaching. I don't see a program. Jesus did not come to bring programs. He came to be radical in calling for a heart commitment to Him and to people. Like we saw last Sunday, justice and the love of God are the big issues, and they're money issues. And then I think Jesus steps back and wants us to wrestle.
It's kind of easy to wish that Jesus had just given us a checklist for how to use our money, but that's not what He did. I'm Dan Kruver. In this episode of Light and Truth, John Piper helps us wrestle with how Jesus connects money to what really matters, our hearts and the lives of others. This talk was originally a session on money delivered at Bethlehem Baptist Church on Wednesday, January 16th, 1991.
Jesus did not limit His proclamation to the poor. We know that because of Zacchaeus. We know it because of Matthew. We'll see more. But there was a focus on the needy, the people who couldn't make it. All right, number 3. Luke shows us examples of helping the poor. Now, this would take us way too long to look at all of these in detail, but let's get some snapshots, because I don't want to give the impression tonight that there's one way to handle your money that Jesus approves of. As I look at the Gospels, I cannot come up with a Jesus lifestyle when it comes to money. You know, I'll just show you. I mean, you'll decide for yourself after we look at these various ways. Because all of these texts here have to do with people who have enough, more than enough. And they all handle it in regard to the poor a little differently. So let's look at them, get some snapshots here. And I think Jesus approves of all these, by the way. Luke 14:12-14. He said to the man who had invited him, so he went to this nice dinner, "When you give a banquet, a dinner or a banquet, not if, but when, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your kinsmen or your rich neighbors, lest they invite you in return and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind." That's, by the way, the same list as were invited to the banquet in the parable. In other words, have a little foretaste of the kingdom invitation in the way you handle your special feasts on Thanksgiving and Christmas and Sunday afternoons and so on. Invite the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed because they cannot repay you. Love that. You will be blessed because they can't bless you. You will get repaid because they can't repay you. You will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. You have to really believe in the world to come in order for that text to make any sense. So now there's a situation, though, where a person has enough money to give a banquet. See? And Jesus doesn't say, "Look, you people who have enough money to give banquets, get rid of that money. Don't have dinners. Dinners are too exorbitant." So He doesn't say that. He says to them, and this may be a way of doing that, sort of indirectly saying, if you've got enough money to give banquets for other people, you better include people who can't pay you back. You better have a heart for those who can't spread banquets like you can spread banquets. But He did not condemn the banquet. Okay? Number 2. Chapter 10, verse 30-37. I think that's the Good Samaritan. We all know that story, probably. Jesus said, "A man going down from Jerusalem to Jericho fell among robbers, stripped him, beat him, and so on. 2 religious figures come by, don't do anything, pass by on the other side. And then comes the Samaritan," verse 33, "as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion." That's the starting point, compassion. "And went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he set him on his own beast." His own beast, that's an interesting little comment there, his own beast, "and brought him to an inn and took care of him." And the next day took out 2 denarii and gave it to the innkeeper, saying, take care of him, and whatever more you spend. I mean, you get the impression here, it's just pouring out of this guy. He's just pouring out of this guy. He doesn't know him. In fact, they're probably at odds because one is a Samaritan, the other one is probably a Jew because of the direction he was going. And the point is, goods, riches, possessions are leaving this man's hands for a stranger in an excessive degree. It's as excessive, Jesus described. He puts him on his own beast. He takes him all the way to the inn. He stays overnight with him, evidently. Maybe he was going to stay overnight anyway. I don't know. He gets up. He says, maybe he's not well yet. Here's some more money. I mean, it's excessive. And Jesus likes this. He's making the story up. Which of these do you think proved to be neighbor to the man who fell among robbers? And he said, the one who showed mercy on him. And Jesus said, go and do likewise. So there's another strategy for helping the down and out. It's not somebody that you're inviting to dinner. It's somebody that you find just in your ordinary life. And the word to this man was not sell all your possessions and give it to this man, but rather be lavish in your care for him. A third one, support regularly for their ministry. Now this is the way Jesus was able to have no place to lay his head and not carry around any goods. Luke 8. There were these well-to-do women, or at least women who had some goods. Verse 2, also some women who had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities, Mary called Magdalene, from whom 7 demons had gone out, and Joanna, the wife of Chuza, Herod's steward. Now that's probably no mistake that he points that out. Herod's steward's wife, Joanna, is somehow, in a semi-official way, one of the, patronesses of Jesus and his 12. Steward and Susanna and many others who provided for them out of their means. So you got this missionary strategy here. Jesus thinks it through and he says, okay, I'm going to send my disciples out with 1 coat, 1 pair of shoes, no bag of money, and a belt, and I'm going to tell them to knock on doors and try to find a place to stay while they're doing their evangelism so that they can never be accused of trying to get money. And in fact, I'm going to tell them not to move from house to house, but to stay with the first one even if the food is lousy. I really think that's the point of why he said don't move once you go into a house, in a room. Don't keep jumping from house to house till you get the best cook or the best bed. Just stay right there. Now, if I'm going to send my disciples out that way, then what should be my strategy for ministry? And he says, well, I just won't have anything. But I have to eat. And I have to sleep. I have to have clothes. So he talks to these women, and he says, how about if you meet us here and here and here, and have our meals ready for us, or make provision, do something, so we don't have to carry any provisions around. And I don't know how they worked it out, but somehow there was a teamwork here of those who had and those who chose, in this case, not to have. And the havers helped the non-havers. And it didn't even out. Notice, Jesus didn't look at this situation and say, hey, this is not good. We should have 50% and they should have 50%. He said they should be generous and lavish and do whatever they need to do so that we have our needs met, but we don't want to be encumbered that way. And so he chooses this particular ministry style. I like Zacchaeus. Let's look at him. Chapter 19. It's a little different yet. Another response to Jesus by a wealthy man. Zacchaeus, chief tax collector, verse 2. Not just any old tax collector. Chief tax collector, and Luke says, and rich. Verse 2 at the end. He sought to see Jesus, but could not, according to the crowd, on account of the crowd, because he was small stature. So he ran on ahead, climbed into the sycamore tree to see him. He was to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, make haste, come down, for I must stay at your house today. He did not snub the rich, see? He went after this man. So let's let that balance this. He came to preach good news to the poor, and it just so happened that while he was walking through Jericho, he preached good news to the rich as well, and that wasn't the only case. But here's one illustration, and we should obviously care about the rich as well. So he made haste and came down and received him joyfully, and when he saw it, they all murmured, he's gone into the house of a man who's a sinner, because he's a tax collector and he's a conspirator with the Romans to rip off the Jews and so on. Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord. Now, I don't know how much time elapsed here or what went on in his mind, but here comes the fruit. Behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I restore it fourfold. Now, let's just stop and think about that for a minute. Half, he just cuts his resources in half and somehow lets it go. And then he's got this restoration project to go around to each person that he ripped off and give them back 4 times as much. He got plenty left for himself, but it's pretty significant. At least he's made a start. And Jesus now interprets what has happened in verse 9. Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, since he also is a son of Abraham. You can almost hear Jesus kind of backhanding the critics at that point. Look, you people who think I shouldn't have gone in to be with this man and sought out this man, he too is the son of Abraham. You think you're a son of Abraham, so is he. And by the way, he's saved. Salvation has come. And the fruit of the salvation is the letting go of half of his goods to the poor and making right the wrongs that he's done in his life. That's another illustration. The next one is John the Baptist right here. That's not Jesus, so maybe I'll pass over that one for now. But John the Baptist, when he was preaching, said, if you have 2 coats, give to him who has none. If you have food, give to him who has none. So there's a very radical stance. How many coats you got at home? How many suits, dresses, shoes? Just giving you an illustration of what I try to do. And I'm not good at this and have many causes for repentance, but I felt pretty good about this one. I was on the way home on the bridge, and a fellow came up to me and said, got $1? I said, well, I have $1, but I don't like to give people money, not because I don't care about people, because most of the people around here want $1 spend it on booze. And I don't think that's a good thing to do. What do you need? He said, I need to buy a sweater. I said, okay, I'll give you a sweater. Come on, that's my house right there. And he got so flabbergasted. He just began to make up all kinds of stories. Oh, that's not the kind of sweater I want. How do you know? I got 8 sweaters at home. You can have which one you want. And he wouldn't come. Now, I think I did the right thing, although we have to be real careful here. We can, in this neighborhood, can become so jaundiced, so cynical, that we almost have fun tricking beggars. It's not good. That's not the spirit of Jesus. We'll see more about that in weeks to come. Give to him who asks, and do not expect in return. Jesus also said, if someone takes your coat, give him your shirt as well. Jesus basically commended being ripped off sometimes. Sometimes. I don't think necessarily all the time, but I'm not, let me illustrate with this right here. The Helping Handbook, we just went over this in our staff meeting yesterday. This has been created now, not for all of you in the church, but for those who are responsible for dealing with people in crisis situations, especially the problem people who are street people, basically, and come in and seek help. And the Helping Hand Committee have worked long and hard to help us come up with compassionate strategies. And we've got networks now with grocery stores, with transportation, with hotels, with community emergency services, so that we think we're in a position now not to turn anybody away for any need. And I love this sentence. I told David when I read it. I was so glad it was there. It said, if in doubt, we would rather err on the side of generosity, but caution you to be discerning. I really believe that's the Spirit of the Lord. Err on the side of generosity. I just admit that once you've been bumped up enough times in a week, you get so fed up sometimes that, well, I'll just give you an illustration so you don't think I'm all that great. Sunday afternoon, I went to get a birthday card for David Livingston. No, it was Saturday. Saturday afternoon for David Livingston's birthday on Sunday. And got out of the car at Walgreens, and I saw this guy coming down, and he asked the guy next to me, who was putting groceries in his car, got any, help me out, guy? And the guy said, no, I'm not going to help you out. And so I took Barnabas and started walking in, and I knew I was next. And he said, hey, mister. And Barnabas said, Daddy, he's calling you. I said, I know he's calling me, Barnabas. We're going to walk into the drugstore. I didn't turn around. Just going, Daddy, he's calling you. Bless his heart. Just the simplicity of a child is probably what I should have been like. And I mean, what do you lose when you give them the change in your pocket? You can say, well, you enable them. And that's why we don't basically give out cash. But frankly, I just think you sleep a lot better if you get ripped off a few times a week than if you're hard-nosed all the time. I think we wealthy folks kind of justify our 25, 50 cents as, I don't know why. So we struggle. We don't have it all together. Two more here. 12:33. Start at 32. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. So there's the foundation of everything, brothers and sisters. We don't need to fear. God cares about us. He loves to give us all the wealth in the universe someday. So now, in that freedom, sell your possessions and give alms. And that's the way you provide yourself with purses in heaven that do not grow old, with a treasure in heaven that cannot fail. So there he doesn't set any percentages like Zacchaeus. He doesn't sell 50 of them. He doesn't say 30. He doesn't say 100 like he did with the rich young ruler. He just says, sell your possessions and give alms. Now we're going to see in a few weeks in the book of Acts, that's what they were doing. They were selling their fields, bringing the money, laying it at the feet of the apostles. And Ananias and Sapphira tried to do it, lied, dropped dead. Barnabas sold a field, brought it, and became a son of encouragement throughout the church. But what Peter said to Ananias and Sapphira was not this field in your care to do with as you willed while you had it? Nobody was twisting your arm. This is free. And yet, it's something that ought to have been done. And I've heard stories in this church and out of this church of people who have done things like that, who have mortgaged things, who have sold things in order to meet needs, missionary needs, church needs, personal needs. The last one is the one we all think about as the most radical call, namely on the rich young ruler in chapter 18, where it says, 18:22. Jesus heard it. He said to him, one thing you still lack, sell all that you have and distribute to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Come follow me. You can't absolutize that for everybody because of Zacchaeus and the other people we've looked at. Jesus didn't say that to everybody. Couldn't have said that to the people holding the banquet. But he said it to this man because for this man, that was the divine prescription for eternal health. He knew this man was in bondage. Had there been anything left, this man would have been still in bondage. And so Jesus says, look, I want to make you well, and I will prescribe the most painful therapy that this good physician knows, because it will heal you. give it all away and join my band. We make it. We make it. We're doing all right, and you will too. Your Father in heaven will meet your need. And He won't do it. He goes away empty, and Jesus says how hard it is for the rich to enter the kingdom. A lot more on that in weeks to come. Now, the point of number 3 here is I don't see one way of handling money in the New Testament, in Jesus' teaching. I don't see a program. Jesus did not come to bring programs. He came to be radical in calling for a heart commitment to Him and to people, like we saw last Sunday. Justice and the love of God are the big issues, and they're money issues. And then I think Jesus steps back and wants us to wrestle. You know, if He had given us a program, a certain percentage, we would all keep it, and we could be as mean inside as the Dickens. We could be all legalistic and just, it could be all wrong. But if you have to struggle, like I struggle in this neighborhood, if you have to struggle when you make a good salary as to what to do with it, it's good. It's good. Jesus wants that, I think. Get on your knees and say, thank you so much that I have so much, that I live in America, and oh, that you're going to hold me accountable for this, Lord. Please now make me a steward that will be able to hear the words, well done, good and faithful servant. I think that's exactly what Jesus wants to see from us. And if we're willing to listen to these kinds of things, I think the Lord will take these things and just apply them to our heart, so that as you move through your life and your income changes all around and your financial conditions change around and your health conditions change around, you'll always be seeking and finding the pathway that He wants you to take. And it'll be different from time to time in your life. Let's see if we can sum all this up. 2 more. Jesus gives warnings to the rich who do not care. And the most obvious one is the story in chapter 16 about the rich man and Lazarus. You get the point just from the first verses. There was a rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen, and who feasted sumptuously every day. And at the gate, at his gate, lay a poor man named Lazarus, full of sores, who desired to be fed with what fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. Now, I think the picture Jesus wants us to see is one of oblivion and non-concern on the part of the rich. That's one of the reasons there is a neighborhood difference. One of the reasons. The rich don't want to see the poor. They are an ever-present indictment of our lifestyles. And so we live as far away from them as we can. If you have to live close and you do what's done here, back and forth, back and forth. Look at that scum if you just worked harder. Well, he goes to hell, and the poor guy goes to heaven, and there's the reversal of roles. And I consider that to be a grave warning. It's a parabolic statement of chapter 6, verse 24. Woe to you that are rich, for you have received your consolation. Isn't that exactly what Abraham said in verse 25 of chapter 16? Abraham said to the rich man, Son, remember that you in your lifetime received your good things, and Lazarus in like manner evil things. But now he is comforted, consoled. That's the same word from chapter 6, verse 24. He's consoled here, and you are in anguish. So God's point is, there will be a reversal of roles for the heartless rich. The heartless, unconcerned, oblivious rich. So what I ask of you is not so much that you walk away tonight feeling, oh good, I've got 5 good conclusions about what to do with my money. Because I'm sure I don't feel that way right now. I hope you walk away with a taste of the freedom Jesus had, a taste of the compassion He had, a more a bigger heart for the poor, a greater vigilance to want to be careful not to misuse our money, because everybody in this room just about is pretty well off. I feel well off.
This is Light and Truth, God-centered preaching to help you see Christ clearly and treasure Him truly. I'm your host, Dan Kruver. Thank you for listening. On our next episode, John Piper begins a two-part series titled, When Wealth Fails You. I hope you'll join us. For more resources, visit desiringgod.org.